development policies. Our active cadre of community institutions continuously focus on priorities such as education and human resource development, health, agriculture and food security, disaster management and response, climate change, and crime and security. We are an influential voice in international fora on critical matters, and our leaders have played important roles in addressing critical issues such as the dismantling of apartheid. Today, we have a strong voice in the growing global debate on reparations for slavery and native genocide, and discussions on climate injustice and responsibility for damage caused by climate change. As a region, we number among our diverse accomplishments the establishment of such pivotal institutions as the Caribbean Development Bank, the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the Caribbean Examinations Council, the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV/AIDS, and the Caribbean Public Health Agency. CARICOM has traversed 5 decades of challenge and change, and we are understandably proud of our accomplishments. As the theme selected for our 50th anniversary celebrations declares, we are 50 years strong with a solid foundation to build on. We will continue to forge a Caribbean community that is inclusive and resilient, a community that is a unified competitive force in the global arena where every citizen is secure, and a community that shares opportunities and economic, social, and cultural prosperity. As we celebrate this Golden Jubilee, we pay homage to our founders, to past and present administrations and staff of institutions and associate institutions of the community and of the CARICOM Secretariat, to the people of the region, both resident and in the diaspora, and to our international partners. We acknowledge with heartfelt appreciation your deeply rooted commitment to the ideals of integration and the concrete benefits that have accrued to the region because of your partnerships, advocacy, and hard work. And as we look forward, we acknowledge that the global landscape has evolved significantly from the realities of 1973. If we are to fulfill the promise of our integration, as laid out in the Treaty of Chaguaramas, we must continue to demonstrate the acumen, tenacity, and sense of shared purpose that has sustained us for the past 50 years. This is what will secure a safe and prosperous community for future generations of our region. Let us therefore marshal our talents and our zeal and continue resolutely towards our vision of one Caribbean, a community for all.
I wish to thank the Secretary General for her insightful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Gaston Brown, upon taking office at the helm of his Antigua Labour Party administration, promised fresh eyes and visionary leadership, both at home and as he engages his colleagues at CARICOM and internationally. He has delivered on that promise. And today, I wish to invite the Prime Minister to share some additional thoughts on CARICOM at 50. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henry. I adopt the protocols as established, to include the acknowledgement of the distinguished Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Chet Green, various permanent secretaries, members of the diplomatic corps, heads of department, and certainly the Chief of Staff, the Honorable Max Hurst. You know, today we are gathered to celebrate a very momentous occasion. 50 years of operationalization and functioning of CARICOM. And 50 years in the life of any organization, any individual is significant. And it is to the credit of the CARICOM people that we have been able to keep this movement, this integration movement together for 50 years. And I hope that we will use this opportunity to redouble our efforts and to ensure that CARICOM lasts for thousands of years. Having said that, it is important for us to continue to strengthen our integration movement. I will be the first to say that it's not a perfect union. It's not a perfect movement. There are many challenges that must be addressed. We know, for example, that the LDCs have not benefited proportionally compared to the MDCs. We know, for example, that some MDCs continue to compete with LDCs, resulting in some displacements. But notwithstanding those challenges, I'm of the firm view that CARICOM has resulted in significant benefits for all of our nations. And we have seen this especially through functional cooperation. And when you look at CARICOM in the context of the global challenges facing our respective nations, we can all conclude that we will do better collectively than individually. There's a saying that if you want to go fast, go it alone. If you want to go far, go it in a group, or go in a group. We have to go both fast and far, which means that we have to do so collectively. And when we consider the myriad of global challenges, we either swim together or sink alone. So CARICOM is essential. I certainly want to thank the Master of Ceremony, the members of the Diplomatic Corps, the senior government officials, members of the clergy, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for coming out today to celebrate this very momentous occasion. And today we join the rest of the region in recognizing the establishment of the CARICOM community, CARICOM. On July 4th, 1973, an early generation of Caribbean leaders set off to unify the region. And that was an extremely noble cause, a cause that has sustained itself 50 years later. Their object then was to build a regional state. And whereas, in a prior effort, we did not quite succeed in establishing or at least sustaining a political union, I still believe that with time, and certainly with the commitment of our leaders and our citizens and residents, that we will achieve a regional political union. Now, despite our small sizes, we wish to create a union of states and territories that would be like a bundle of sticks. That was the objective of our forebears. Together, we intended to be stronger and far more resilient than we could be if we traveled alone. As we celebrate 50 years since the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas, our country's collaboration has indeed proven the early generation to be right. The CARICOM has made the nation states a stronger force, especially in multilateral institutions than each could have hoped for. The theme, 50 years strong, a solid foundation to build on, captures the history of our binding agreement spawned by far-thinking West Indian leaders and scholars of that period. CARICOM, I'm told, is the oldest surviving integration movement in the developing world, and for that, we should be justifiably proud. Let's hear it for CARICOM. 50 years of living integration is indeed a tremendous accomplishment and testimony of our people's determination. Today's ceremony serves to acknowledge its significance at the highest level here in Antigua and Barbuda, standing in the shadow of our parliament and in the shade of the Prime Minister's edifice, occupied since the year 2000 by 3 prime ministers. While the official date of commemoration is the 4th of July, I will be in Trinidad with other colleagues on that day as we converge for the 45th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM. On that occasion, there will be a series of engaging and inclusive activities, providing an important opportunity to reflect on the history, the achievements, and certainly the bold steps taken over the last 50 years. Integration of the region is CARICOM. Much of the integration process has been piloted by key decision-making bodies, and perhaps the most effective organs of the community are the Conference of Heads, the Community Council of Ministers, and the Council for Trade and Economic Development. Truly, 50 years of existence has been remarkable. That period has brought many officials, ministers, and heads of government to examine and to agree on a path towards economic resilience and sustainability within CARICOM. And evidently, what we're seeking to do here is to, through integration, improve the living standards of all our people and to achieve resilience and sustainability. We all know of the various challenges, the exogenous shocks that the region would have sustained during the decades. So ultimately, we must continue to work together to increase our resilience so that we can bounce back quicker, or for that matter, to bounce forward whenever we're faced with these external shocks, and at the same time to ensure sustainable growth and development. Past and present intellectuals have opined on the relevance of CARICOM in advancing the development agenda through significant accomplishments. In the areas of functional cooperation, especially education, health, and responses to natural disasters, our CARICOM has been the shining light on the hill. And we celebrate the contributions of the Caribbean Development Bank, Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV/AIDS, PANCAB, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARFA, and the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, 5Cs. And let me just remind us all of the role that was played by CARFA during the challenging period of COVID. It was CARFA that primarily led the regional response. So these institutions are extremely important to the integration movement. And whenever individuals wish to second guess the importance and the contribution of CARICOM, I wish to remind them of the contributions of these various CARICOM institutions. It is important to note that CARICOM has focused significant energy on the establishment of the single market and economy, the CSME, and towards the stimulation of regional commerce. And whereas we have not quite achieved a single economy, it is work in progress. We shall continue unrelentingly until it is achieved. In order to achieve this objective, it was necessary to create and now to modernize the Common External Tariff, the CET, which has been critical in dismantling barriers to trade and commerce within our community. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish on this historic occasion to recognize and to applaud the efforts of the Intergovernmental Task Force that has assigned that tremendous undertaking to negotiate the revised treaty signed in July 2021. I also wish to recall the 1989 Grandance Declaration, which showed the willingness of the entire region to grapple with the contending challenges at the time. It is the blueprint and forerunner to successes of the CSME. Today, I wish to reaffirm CARICOM's invaluable role in meeting the challenges of our times, which underscore the interdependence of member states. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it would be remiss of me to end these remarks without acknowledging the efforts of Antiguans and Barbudans who have represented the country while advancing the agenda of CARICOM over the last 50 years. And I wish to recognize particularly the national hero and late father of the nation, the Right Honorable Dr. Vere Cornwall Byrd Sr., and the late Sir Lester Bryant Byrd, as well as many others who provided great wisdom and shared ideas that have been recorded in the verbatim documents of CARICOM. And I also recognize to the contribution of former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer during his tenure as Prime Minister. No doubt, we stand on the shoulders of titans, whether statesmen, politicians, economists, academics, social scientists, historians, or writers. Many are no longer with us, but have left an indelible mark on the integration movement, its virtues and challenges. Among the many voices are Eric Williams, George Lamming, George Beckford, Rex Nettleford, Tim Hector, Sir Alexander Bustamante, Sir Grantley Adams, Robert Bradshaw, and Austin Bramble. It isn't a well-known fact that Article 158, the Development Fund, was a proposal emanating from Antigua and Barbuda at the Intergovernmental Task Force. I must also thank and congratulate His Excellency Dr. Clarence Henry, who has been our ambassador to CARICOM for many years, probably close to 2 decades, and has been a constant and strong voice for LDCs in his engagement with other CARICOM colleagues. Again, I congratulate you, Dr. Henry. As we continue to celebrate CARICOM at 50, there will be more opportunities to engage and educate the public on several aspects that are at the core of this integration movement. On Thursday, I will present on the matters dealing with services, which is my portfolio. That is my portfolio area of responsibility within the CARICOM Quasi-Cabinet. Later this year, we will be partnering with UE5 Islands for a special event, a public sensitization activity to continue the CARICOM 50th anniversary celebrations. Antigua and Barbuda continues to support the ethos and aspirations of CARICOM. We look forward to our journey towards full integration and sharing without fear the ideas emanating from Antigua and Barbuda. My administration will continue to seek to address various evolving issues, especially climate change, issues to include the multi-dimensional vulnerability index, the issue of the debt challenges, the reform of the international financial architecture, and to ensure that we continue to make meaningful contributions within CARICOM and to ensure that CARICOM remains as a competing regional organization that is globally respectable. I end by, again, thanking everyone for being present here today and to thank all those who contributed to the success of this very important integration movement. Long live CARICOM, long live the integration movement. Long may our civilizations grow and prosper. May these past 50 years of achievements be celebrated for what they are, a contribution to the foundation for improving the times in which we now live. And may the next 50 years serve as a future beyond our imagination. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Now, before we leave, we must give thanks to those who made this ceremony possible. Certainly, I'd like to start by thanking the Honorable Prime Minister for his usual powerful and frank remarks, emphasizing strength in numbers to push the Caribbean community to the next level of integration and development. I'd also like to thank the Secretary General for her remarks outlining the history, accomplishments, and present work of the Secretariat. Dr. Henry, thank you for your heartfelt remarks. Your passion for the Caribbean community is noted, and Antigua and Barbuda is in good hands with you as our distinguished ambassador. Minister Green, I'd like to thank you for your presence here today to commemorate this historic 50th anniversary of CARICOM, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda, the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, certainly our Chief of Protocol, Ms. Karen Cabral, thank you for your assistance today, and also the Planning Committee within the Office of the NAO, and also members of the media. Thank you to everyone, and this is where we end the ceremony, and we'll just have a few photos at the end. So, thank you.
Of course, Kurt Williams, who is, of course, the Senior Foreign Service Officer, senior Foreign Service officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We're trying to get a quick comment from the Prime Minister as well. Possibly, we can try to get that comment in a few. But of course, what you just saw here would have been the flag-raising ceremony in honor of CARICOM's 50th anniversary. And it's taking place a few days, however, ahead of the official anniversary, which is, of course, July 4, 1973. That would, of course, been the start, or that would have been the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. July 4, 1973. So July 4, 2023 will make it 50 years of CARICOM and the oldest surviving integration movement in the developing world. Photo opportunities now, and we will be afterwards getting a quick comment from the Prime Minister as well. Prime Minister Brown will talk with us about his own expectations and also want to speak with him about a significant matter which the Prime Minister mentioned, that he's looking forward to a political union. He thinks that it is possible to have a political union in CARICOM. Of course, there are some photo opportunities still being done here. Of course, Prime Minister and Ambassador Henry taking photos just between the two flagpoles, one bearing, of course, the CARICOM flag, the other the flag of Antigua, Barbuda. And of course, this is a seminal occasion. The Prime Minister indicating that this is being done a few days earlier because he will, of course, be in Trinidad and Tobago for the 45th regular heads or meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government, which will, of course, mark the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. And of course, as I said, pretty significant occasion then. We'll of course be trying to get a quick comment from the Prime Minister just before he goes back to his office. There's in a quick discussion with Ambassador Clarence Henry. Dr. Clarence Henry, of course, Antigua Barbuda's ambassador to CARICOM, who has been fundamental, who has been critical to, as I said, this country's participation in the regional integration project. We will, of course, be getting, as I said, more comments on that. But if you're just joining us, of course, we're welcoming as well a regional audience. An audience, of course, which is comprised of right across the region. In fact, we can just get a very quick comment with the Prime Minister. He's extremely busy just before he goes back to his office. Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us on our broadcast, as ever. Yes, indeed. You mentioned how proud you are of the 50 years, well, almost 50 years now. July 4 will make it 50 years. You mentioned that it's still possible for a political union. I mean, harking back to the days of the West Indies Federation, given that that collapsed pretty quickly, what makes you so confident that a political union is possible?
It has to remain an aspiration of the Caribbean people. There's no way that we can give up on that noble aspiration. That'll be defeatist. You know, I always believe that we should not become daunted by challenges. And you would recall, for example, recently we had an issue with some African migrants having established a gateway between Antigua, Barbuda and Nigeria. And whereas we had to suspend the flights, we remain absolutely focused to establishing a sustaining gateway between Antigua and Barbuda, Africa and the Caribbean. So there'll always be bumps in the road, but you just cannot give up on those noble aspirations. We know that based on our size, that it's important for us to integrate, to get economies of scale, to reduce the duplication of efforts, to have even greater functional cooperation. I mean, look at the great United States. The United States comprises of 50 states, and it's an economy that is worth over $20 trillion. And if the United States did not have that federal entity consolidating the efforts of 50 states, it would not have been such a powerful nation. And if states that have valued trillions of dollars saw the need to integrate with others within Europe and the Americas, why would small micro-states in the Caribbean refuse to integrate and try to have a federal government to achieve some level of political integration? And I'll say here that even if it takes 1,000 years, it's not a matter of if it will happen, it's a matter of when. And our people should never, ever, notwithstanding the challenges, notwithstanding the failure of the first attempt to achieve a federation, we should never, ever give up on that noble aspiration, because ultimately, we either swim together or sink alone.
Fair point, Prime Minister. I mean, I'm pretty sure that that will resonate right across the region. Our broadcast is being carried on the CARICOM site across the region as well. July 4, Prime Minister, which is just a few days away, being celebrated by some member states as a public holiday. Is that being considered here?
We have not made a decision to that effect. You know, truth be told, we have had so many public holidays. I mean, our calendar is replete with public holidays that it is always difficult to add additional holidays. And this is no disrespect or any contempt or lack of commitment to CARICOM if we decide not to. It's just a matter of, you know, not exacerbating an already difficult situation, which we probably have too many public holidays. But in any case, Antigua and Barbuda, all of the events, nationally and the regional events, is to make our contribution towards the 50th anniversary with full commitment, full participation. Again, the Cabinet has not made a determination as yet whether or not July 4th will be a holiday. I would say at this point it is unlikely, but no one should construe it as any form of contempt or disrespect for this historic and certainly momentous occasion in which we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of CARICOM.
Yes. I promise a final comment from me, because we know that you're extremely busy and you have to go, and thank you so much for speaking with us. You mentioned that the single market and economy, the single economy hasn't quite come to fruition at all. There has been significant progress on the single market. I remember, you know, attending several CARICOM meetings and, you know, covering several I remember one around about 2006 or 7 in Jamaica, which really pushed on a CARICOM single economy. It hasn't really happened. Do you think that's realistic?
Well, you know, if I would have gone as far, which I did, to say that there will be political union, then it stands to reason that there would be a single economy at some point, because achieving the single economy is less daunting than a political union. That is work in progress. We're making incremental progress, and I would say that within the upcoming maybe 24, 36 months, we should see some additional achievements. Hopefully we'll see greater conversion of currencies. We'll see the establishment of a regional stock market that you know, will be greater functional cooperation, and that all of the impediments towards the establishment of this single economy will be dispensed with, and that in the upcoming years we will achieve again that very noble objective of having a single economy. Again, it's critical.
Yeah. I just have to ask you about regional transportation. You've been central in keeping LIAT flying, at least an iteration of it. Do you think that is that one of the issues that you want to discuss with your fellow CARICOM heads when you meet in the conference?
It's inescapable. We have to discuss the issue of transportation. I know that there are many countries within the integration movement who see this issue as I should say now, an insular issue. But again, I think LIAT should be respected as a CARICOM institution, and that there should be a regional commitment to restoring it in the interest of Caribbean people, to ensure that there is greater connectivity, and to ensure that Caribbean people could move, and they could move readily. You cannot have a successful integration movement if the people cannot move. So again, I'm just hoping we can go past the insularity and the national priorities, in which I imagine there are regional competing forces that would like to see the demise of LIAT, and to recognize the importance of such an institution to complement the efforts of CAL, and that ultimately some form of publicly funded transportation will be critical to achieving sustainable transportation within the region. This flawed notion that we must rely exclusively on private sector assets, it is not a sustainable solution, and Antigua and Barbuda believes that ultimately a reorganized, recapitalized LIAT, new LIAT, leaving all of the legacy issues behind, one that will operate professionally, one that will operate on a profit basis, that will be the answer to our regional transportational woes.
And by when will a decision be made by Cabinet Prime Minister on the July 4 holiday, possibly?
Tomorrow we'll give consideration to it. Again, I'm not very hopeful that we'll want to add another holiday at this point. You recall too that CARICOM Day was once a holiday in Antigua and Barbuda, and it was actually discontinued for the very reason that we just had too many public holidays. And we also have to look at the impact on productivity, and it was felt back then it had to be discontinued. So Again, even, you know, there may be a case for one-off restoration, but again, I can't say that I'm extremely hopeful that that may happen. And again, it doesn't represent any lack of commitment on the part of my administration to recognize this very momentous occasion.
Thank you, Prime Minister. By the way, similar sentiments were expressed by your colleague, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt in Dominica, about why he's reserved about, or is a little bit hesitant.
So there you go, we're fully aligned.
There you go. Prime Minister, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All the very best. Wish you all the best. All right, Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown speaking with us there about, as I said, the value of CARICOM, the importance of the regional integration project. We'll be talking with the two CARICOM youth ambassadors. In fact, we can now speak with Pia Nichols. And Pia Nichols, one of the CARICOM youth ambassadors, as well as, in fact, I'm sorry, I think they want Pia to be in a photograph with the and Esquire photograph first before we talk with them. Of course, in a very short while, we'll be speaking with Pia and Esquire Henry. Of course, the two CARICOM youth ambassadors, of course, who would have been part of, as I said, we just wanted to assist the photographers there. They're capturing these moments for posterity. In a way, Pia Nichols it's a very powerful moment for her because she's the granddaughter of one of the surviving members of the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. So, in fact, the granddaughter of the only surviving signatory of the Treaty of Chaguaramas from the 1973-1974 period, P. Austin Bramble, former Chief Minister of Montserrat. We can now speak with Pia, and we'll also in a short while speak with Esquire as well. Pia, thank you so much. Welcome to our broadcast. So, CARICOM Youth Ambassador, you're the granddaughter of P. Austin Bramble, former Chief Minister of Montserrat, one of the, in fact, the only surviving signatory of the Treaty of Chaguaramas 1973-1974. How does that feel?
Well, he's my grandfather, so, you know, I've grown up with him. I know him as Granddad, not Chief Minister Bramble, and I would have found out about his status as the last surviving signatory after becoming a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. So I think when we found that out, it was very interesting that there was a continuation in the family because it was completely inadvertent. We did not know that he had, honestly, I didn't know he was a signatory. So it was just interesting to see that strain of really having pride in our regional identity and wanting to further regional integration was something that was, you know, almost genetic.
Indeed.
So it was definitely an interesting tidbit to find out.
Very good. How do you feel with CARICOM being 50 years old, just a few days' time on the 4th of July this year, 50 years of the regional integration movement? How does that feel as a CARICOM youth ambassador?
Well, if something lasts 50 years, there's something good in it, that's for certain. So, you know, I think it's a testament to the fact that we need regional integration and we need to continue to work to integrate as well as we can, because if it's hitting 50 years, we're doing something right. So let's keep doing what we're doing right and keep doing it better, I would say. I think that's how it feels.
Final question, Pia. How has it been being CARICOM Youth Ambassador?
Definitely exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's work to do good and help. So that's definitely the best part about it, you know, doing something properly, doing something to help the community.
Yes. We wish you all the very best. You're helping not only your country, but your entire region. So thank you so much for your service. And thank you so much for your contribution here with the flag raising ceremony. We wish you all the best with your continued efforts as a CARICOM Youth Ambassador.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Pia Nichols, one of the country's CARICOM Youth Ambassadors. We can now speak with Esquire Henry, who is also a CARICOM Youth Ambassador, participated as well in the flag raising today. Esquire, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on being a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. How does it feel participating in a ceremony which is marking the 50th anniversary, the Golden Jubilee of CARICOM?
You know, it's truly an honor because it's really a celebration. I've seen the work that CARICOM has done throughout my life, and so to be here today and to participate in this ceremony is something that I've looked forward to, and I'm happy that it was executed.
Excellent. How did it feel participating today, as I said, in that flag raising? I mean, given the significance of the occasion.
It's really great, you know, just to see and hear the speeches of the Secretary General and as well as our Honorable Prime Minister. They touched on some very important points and the key role that CARICOM has played over the past 50 years.
How has it been being a CARICOM Youth Ambassador? What are the projects that you've been engaged in? What's next up on the agenda?
So far it has been a good experience. So far I've served on several committees. In fact, I served on a committee who assisted with the execution of the selection of the logos and the anthem, well, not the anthem, but the slogan. So it was really impactful to see that they actually allowed youths to have a voice in that selection. So it was really good there. Also served on several committees to give technical advice, and that has been a good journey as well.
Let me ask you a final question. Be absolutely brave, be absolutely assertive in terms of what you'd want to see for CARICOM going forward. If you had a magic wand and you could just wave that magic wand and get something done, what would you want to see happen for CARICOM to strengthen the integration movement, especially for young people?
The first thing that we need to strengthen integration is a regional transportation. We need to strengthen a regional transportation. We need to have a way to get around to these different islands easily. Currently, it's really hard and expensive, and as a young person, we can't afford that. So we definitely need to make heavy investments into a solid regional transportation system.
Well, I think that your point is echoed by so many young people and so many people, I mean, of whatever age across the region. Thank you so much, Esquire. Thank you so much for your service as a CARICOM Youth Ambassador, and we wish you all the very best in your continuing endeavors.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate being here. Same to you.
All right, that's Esquire Henry, who is, of course, one of the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors. We can probably get two quick comments from, in fact, both gentlemen, from both Kurt Williams, who is a Senior Foreign Service Officer, and Ambassador Dr. Clarence Henry, who is, of course, Antigua Barbuda's Ambassador to CARICOM, as we wrap up our broadcast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with Ambassador Henry. Your feeling, your reaction to the fact that this is celebrating 50 years, a golden jubilee of the Regional Integration Project.
It is a long journey and much accomplishments to which we must celebrate. As the Prime Minister said, it wasn't just smooth sailing. There have been numerous challenges, but we have been able to overcome. I dare say there will be other challenges as we go beyond the first 50 years, but we shall embrace and we shall deal with them most effectively. That is who we are, resilient and people of keen insights who can resolve these many challenges. I am very happy today. This ceremony shows that Antigua and Barbuda appreciates the community. There have been many who have gone before us. We must add to what they have achieved, accomplished, and I say there needs to be somewhere we can capture their contributions. We have heard of several libraries being established. Why can't we have a library set aside for the accomplishments of all these statesmen, politicians, political scientists, historians, even the critics? We must acknowledge them because they are the ones who help to keep us grounded. And at the end of the day, that is what has made CARICOM so solid. We must also applaud the contributions of the officers at the CARICOM Secretariat. We call them the regional public servants. They have toiled long and hard in the vineyards. I want to also recognize the hard work that you have made. I saw that you had Hilroy Humphreys. He was my first Minister of Trade who I served under. He taught me so much. I keep on making the joke with him that he told me on our first mission to Georgetown, Clarence, do not wait on others to contribute. This was at the Council for Trade and Economic Development. He said, look, jump out first so that you will establish the tone and tenor of the meeting. And I've used it to good effect. So we have come across so many colleagues over the years, many who have left the institution of COTED. I want to acknowledge my dear friend, the former ambassador of Grenada, Patrick Antoine. We were solid representatives. He from Grenada, I from Antigua and Barbuda. People would always say, we are going to have a good meeting when the two of them are here. We battled together, but we remain solid friends. And that is what the region is about. That is what CARICOM is about. When we leave the stage, others will continue. And at the end of the day, we thank the Almighty for placing us in this position. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to get one more question in, Ambassador. Let me just get Mr. Williams here. Kurt Williams, as I said, Senior Foreign Service Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. How do you feel about, I mean, you participated in the ceremony here, welcome and a vote of thanks. But how does it feel for you with 50 years of the regional integration movement, 50 years since the Treaty of Chagarama signed?
50 years is certainly a time. I mean, I'm only 35, so, you know, I have a while to go before I get to the age of 50.
And I'm 45.
Indeed. But I think that despite the numerous challenges that we have within CARICOM, we have seen progress. The integration movement is slow, but we're getting there. And I think that compared to certainly other institutions within the hemisphere, we're a solid integration movement. We have much to be proud of, and I certainly look forward to the next 50 years. Certainly, I hope that I'll be around. I know that you may be around as well. We hope that, and certainly Dr. Henry will be carrying the mantle well into the next 50 years.
Let me ask both of you gentlemen, starting with Ambassador Henry. So, going forward, what do you think is the next major imperative for the regional integration movement? Because it has to remain relevant, it has to remain responsive and nimble to address the challenges of our world. I mean, climate change, as you heard the Prime Minister saying, a significant challenge, the biggest existential threat we face. There's always a threat of these pandemics, possibly another pandemic and so on. What do you think CARICOM needs to do as a next big step to deepen and strengthen the integration project?
Like all great institutions, CARICOM must critically analyze the years that have gone beyond and look towards establishing a framework of forward thinking. I've always maintained that risk analysis, forecasting is pivotal. We constantly react instead of looking to set the parameters of where we ought to go. You have the pandemic that came, left. There ought to have been calculations, as I said, risk analysis. Every country, especially in the international community, has been undertaking such. We believe as well, as I said, we need to capture the vision, the thoughts, the history of those who have gone before, ahead of us. We need to recapture the verbatim documents at the Secretariat. Is a series of well-executed plans. Why can't we create a document, a historical document that can be shared across the region, in schools, in universities? Create a library dealing with our integration movement. We need as well to have someone being appointed to deal with advocacy of CARICOM, advocacy of the single market and economy, as well as dealing with, as I said, the forecasting. There's much to be done, but we must celebrate what others, the Prime Minister called it, we strive now on the backs of titans. There were, and we are creating new ones, such as the Prime Minister as well.
Ambassador Henry, and final comments to Kurt Williams. What do you think, what for you would be the next biggest imperative for CARICOM?
Well, certainly as you mentioned, the whole issue of climate change, I think we also need to find workable solutions to youth violence as well. And also, I think we have to seek ways to diversify the various economies within the Caribbean community. I know the majority of us are dependent on tourism, but certainly agriculture is an area in which we could seek to strengthen, and that would be through the advocacy efforts, not only of the respective member states, but the secretariats as well. Certainly the whole issue of financing as well. But I believe that for me, climate change, youth violence, and certainly the diversification of the various economies to strengthen the integration movement would be key for the next 50 years.
The Ambassador had a quick final comment.
Yes, and before you go, Burford, it is important to add the whole matter of reparations. We need to bring that to finality. There has to be some resolution to that most difficult situation that existed long before our times. We need to also look towards having and dealing with the whole matter of creating a better, fairer Caribbean community. We must address the issues of our small size without necessary mineral resources. We ought not to be left wanting. And as the Prime Minister said, we must be integrated further into CARICOM. That would have been the desire of the deceased former Prime Minister of Barbuda, Owen Arthur. He executed a famous consultancy that we are yet to fully implement. But there are opportunities, numerous opportunities. Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate it, Ambassador Henry. Really appreciate it, Kurt Williams. Thank you so much. Kurt Williams, as I said, Senior Foreign Service Officer. Ambassador Dr. Clarence Henry is Antigua Barbuda's ambassador to CARICOM. We thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts with us as we wrap up our broadcast here. As I said, what you would have just witnessed to our audience right here in Antigua Barbuda and across the region would have been a flag-raising ceremony in honor of the 50th anniversary of CARICOM, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas in 1973, July 4, 1973. So we're a few days away from that, but of course Antigua Barbuda having this ceremony today, of course, in honor of the occasion, which is just a few days away. We thank you so much for having joined us. Of course, the first 4 countries which are signed on to the Treaty of Chaguaramas, Jamaica, Barbados, as well as Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. Since then, CARICOM has grown to 15 full members, 14 of which are independent member states, the other being Montserrat, a British Overseas Territory, 5 associate members as well. A growing integration movement made up of English, Dutch and French-speaking countries, Haiti being the only French-speaking country, Suriname being the Dutch-speaking country, the others being English-speaking. And of course, the region continues to try to seek ways to integrate further, to deepen the integration project, which started in 1958 with the West Indies Federation, an attempt at a political union. It fizzled, but according to the Prime Minister, Honorable Gaston Brown, he doesn't think that the region should give up on that idea, and he's confident, he's sanguine on the thought that a political union will be established. It's only a matter of time, he says, before that happens. He's also sanguine on the thought, on the prospect of an economic union as well. CARICOM's single market and economy was envisioned as a way to deepen the integration project. The single market has essentially made significant strides, but the single economy has pretty much withered on the vine, not dead according to the Prime Minister. He expects that that's to happen. We shall, of course, continue to track developments as we get closer to July 4, the 50th anniversary, the official date of the 50th anniversary of CARICOM, and of course, much more on all our platforms as we continue to give you coverage. I'm Garfield Burford on behalf of the entire team here at the Office of the Prime Minister in St. John's, Antigua, turning you back over to your respective studios. Thank you so much for joining us.